The Tragedy of the Japanese Internment Camps by Ryder Olson. The Japanese internment camps were a tragic event following Pearl Harbor, where on February 19, 1942, President Franklin Roosevelt made Executive Order 9066, and it said that all people that are at least 1/16th Japanese will be put into internment camps to prevent the U.S. from Japanese spies. The camps were all along the Pacific coast. The person to recommend this was Lieutenant John Dewitt, who had said before that he wanted Germans and Italian descent put into camps, but they weren't too fond of that idea. The camps started on 1942, but ended at the end of the war in 1945. After World War I, many countries did not agree with the Treaty of Versailles, and they wanted something more, something better. Germany and its allies, Italy, Japan, Hungary, Bulgaria, and Romania, wanted to take over the world, so on September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland. 2 days later, war was declared. May 10th, 1940, Nazis invade Luxembourg, Netherlands, and Belgium. Italy declares war on Britain and France on June 10th, 1940, leading up to Pearl Harbor. The U.S. didn't enter the war until 2 years after the war started, in 1941. The U.S. entered just 4 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor was a tragic event. On December 7th, 1941, Japan attacked because the U.S. was their main source of iron, steel, and oil. But Japan broke the Treaty of Commerce, and they were at war with China, so the U.S. restricted the flow of shipment towards Japan. Japan became angered with the United States, so they planned an attack on the U.S. naval base Pearl Harbor and destroyed 18 U.S. ships, over 300 planes, and a tragic 2,334 American soldiers died. 1,143 were wounded. The battle went on for only 2 hours, but did so much damage. This infamous battle led to the internment camps just months later. Japanese internment camps started from Executive Order 9066 on February 19, 1942, by President Franklin Roosevelt. It stated, all people that are at least 1/16th Japanese will be put into an internment camp to protect the United States of America from Japanese spies due to the attack on Pearl Harbor. Some people agreed with this, and were very angered by it, but most actually agreed with it and thought it was the right thing. There were a few famous court cases about them, like Korematsu, versus United States. Although he had lost it, it still had a great impact on society. Before they went into the camps, they were forced to live in old horse stalls that smelled like manure and were very claustrophobic, and the living conditions were even worse than the actual internment camps. There were camps in Amick, Colorado, Gila River, Arizona, Hart Mountain, Wyoming, Jerome, Arkansas, Manzanar, California, Poston, Arizona, Minidoka, Idaho, Topaz, Utah, Roher, Arkansas, Tule Lake, California. There were similar camps in Canada too, to protect their own country. After they were sent to the camps, it took a little while to adjust. But after a while, they created their own little government for themselves and had made a community. But things were still not the best, like how dry it was at the camps. And it made it hard to grow food and get water, or the little privacy they had in the horrible bathrooms. But they worked through it and did what they could for a better life. In the camps, there were around 120,000 people, and by the end, in 1945, 2,000 people had tragically died. After people got out of the internment camps, they felt so angered, sad, but also happy that they made it out together. But what they saw when they came home made them feel so alone. Their windows were broken, and their house was trashed, and to top it all off, there were graffiti on their walls saying something like, "No Japs wanted," or "Keep moving, this is a white man's neighborhood." They had to rebuild everything and do anything they could to survive. Although it was rough, they had to do it almost like they were still in the camps, but they made it through that too. In 1988, the government sent out $20,000 to each survivor of the internment camp to apologize for what they did in the camps and how they made them leave their homes, sell their stuff, and live in internment camps. They also did it because not only did they take away their home and a lot of their stuff, they also took away their freedom. The Japanese internment camps were a horrible event caused by the attack on Pearl Harbor on February 19th, 1942. President Franklin Roosevelt had made Executive Order 9066, where it said that all people that are at least 1/16th Japanese ancestry will be put into the internment camps. John Dewey, the man to recommend this, and he was a very proud supporter of it. They started in 1942 but ended in 1945. This was a horrible event, but a great example of racism and dehumanization in our country. The U.S. had no evidence that the Japanese were spying on them, but they still made them that order and put them into the camps, no matter how many people were against it. And how many court cases there were. They still thought it was constitutional, even though it was claimed constitutional by the Supreme Court. Many think that it is unconstitutional and wrong. That they even thought to do anything like that around 80 years after the Civil War. I would like to thank Pick, Play, Post, Mrs. Knorr, Mrs. Jansen, my mom, and The Atlantic. Thank you.